Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So my classic album inspection today is Yngwie Malmsteen's debut solo album, Rising Force. This is the album that started the whole shred neoclassical genre in a more popular sense. This was the sort of defining style of 80s guitar, and we'd go on to get some Vinnie Moore, Tony McAlpine, Marty Friedman, Jason Becker, Paul Gilbert, and numerous other guitarists doing their spin on this style. Obviously Malmsteen first comes to notice in Mike Varney's Spotlight Common in '82 in a guitar player. Then he's kind of shoehorned into Steeler, where he lets rip with some top soloing, but the album's not greatly produced. So he really starts to come of age with the excellent Alcatraz debut album, No Parole from Rock and Roll. There, with that album, the song nature of the album kind of reigns in. Some of his soloing a bit, which I think is a good thing on this album. Obviously, he can do what he wants, and he lets rip with his full arsenal of shred-tastic stuff. Jens Johansson's on keyboards on this, and Jeff Scott Soto sings a couple of tracks. Obviously Jeff Scott Soto will sing on the excellent Marching Art album. So I actually got this album, I worked backwards. I got Trilogy first, then Marching Art, then I got this. So I've never quite liked this album as much as those. But I'll go through my reasons for that. It's 39 minutes and 33 seconds long. You've got 8 tracks. So it opens up with an all-time classic instrumental track by Malmsteen, which is Black Star. A little tale about this: I actually was supposed to do a cover version of this for my first proper public gig with a mate of mine and a couple of other guys. And we got chucked off after 10 minutes. We didn't get to do this, so now we got to play it. Not much you can say about this. I think if you're looking for what's great about it and what's wrong about it, with future Malmsteen reference is... you've got this lovely melody, you've got great use of pivot licks, you've got swept arpeggios, Malmsteen's weird take on alternate picking, that's a kind of weird economy picking that we thought was alternate. Lovely phrasing, really good melody, good structure. It's got a plot, it goes dun 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 dun. And that's cool, that works for the song. But something you'll find with Malmsteen as you go through his career, he's not rhythmically very interesting. And it's fair to say that in this album he kind of, he just sat out his stall fairly early. He hasn't really deviated from that much. But it's a great track. And then you've probably got his all-time classic instrumental track, and one of the all-time instrumental guitar tracks. You get Surfing with the Alien, you get Where Were You by Jeff Beck, Because We're Under Lovers. You get For the Love of God, you get Cliffs of Dover, and Far Beyond the Sun, Scarified by Race X. Far Beyond the Sun's one that's wheeled out as cover versions. Really, it demonstrates all Malmsteen's arsenal. Again, his version of fast alternate picking, sweet picked arpeggios, diminished 7 arpeggios, use of the Phrygian dominant mode, use of the natural minor scale, and so on. The execution on this is amazing. It's got a really high energy to it, and it's got an amazing ending as well. It properly goes through on this. It's 5 minutes 52, but it flies by. Next track I didn't used to like, but I've kind of grown to like it. It's Now Your Ships Are Burned. It's kind of his take on Sails of Charon, really. Obviously Now Your Ships Are Burned, very Viking type lyrical subject. Jeff Scott Soto sings on this. It's got insane shredding on this. It's mainly kind of a Phrygian dominant type riff. Again, if it was to make criticisms of the track later on, there's other things later on where he's playing those kind of riffs. I actually liked it later on when he kind of went a little more commercial. But there's insane shredding on this. I wouldn't say the track's great, but it's good. It's a lot of fun. Then you've got Evil Eye. It says based on Johann Krieg's Bury. So he used to play this with Alcatraz and an instrumental. So again, this is kind of using the Phrygian dominant thing. I don't feel this instrumental is quite as successful as Far Beyond the Sun of Black Star, but it has got some cool... It's rhythmically interesting. It's got great bits where he's putting in little fills, and he does like a little kind of picked acoustic fill. So I haven't finished the original side 1. Side 2 opens with Icarus Dream Suite, Opus 4. This is my favourite track on the album. It's based on album known as Adagio in G minor, the first bit, but Malmsteen plays it in, the E minor position, but he's always tuned to E flat. It's beautiful. It's actually a bit riff at the end, which is kind of a bit Tubular Bells. Got a great riff in the middle. And I think it's easy to forget that Malmsteen does write really cool riffs. He's got his rhythm style. I've always enjoyed that. Yeah, it's an amazing track, 8 minutes 33. The way it's split into 3 movements, it precursors, or it's like a precursor to Trilogy Suite, which I think is probably Malmsteen's greatest instrumental. So I love this track. Next track's a Turkey, As Above, So Below. It's got all the funniest lyrics, opening lyrics. There's a hole in the sky, but don't ask me why, because I don't know. And he goes, no. Yeah, Malmsteen's got a bit of a way to go with the lyrics and vocals at this stage, but I do like his songwriting style later on. Yeah, obviously the solo is good. So the album finishes off with Little Gem, Little Savage. This is yeah, it's one of my favourites on the album. It's quite interesting, you know. It's mainly riff based with little kind of fills. There's quite a cool middle section where he plays some lovely stuff. Then it goes into kind of more pop metal sort of ending. It kind of fades into solo and does some really cool stuff. The last track's called Farewell, which is just basically the kind of a rerun of the intro to Black Star. She mentioned Black Star's got a great sort of chord, classical guitar intro. But I don't really see the point of Farewell. Yeah, so this is a classic album in terms of the style. It solidifies him. There's always arguments, well, Randy Rhoads did some neoclassical stuff, so did John Roth, Richie Blackmore, yes, but Malmsteen was the one that took it up technically more, but he really did bring in the Paganini and the Vivaldi, because he had the chops to do that. I mean, later on, Uli Roth, obviously, Uli Roth's got mega chops, and he would get more into that. But at the time, you know, Blackmore, Roth and so on could bring in like themes, but didn't have the chops to kind of mimic these violin greats, as it were. Yeah, so the album is a classic, but I think it's got some patches. I think it's the point of Farewell, I don't know, As Above, So Below. It can get a bit repetitive, so I think there's been better instrumental. I think Tony McAlpin's Maximum Security, for instance, is a superior neoclassical shred record in terms of songs. I probably prefer Edge of Insanity. People say Mind's Eye by Vinnie Moore, and so on, Perpetual Burn by Jason Becker. But Malmsteen, you know, is the one who starts this all. There's a lot people say about Malmsteen, oh, he just plays fast and stuff like that. I mean, he's always been one of my absolutely top 2 or 3 players. I think his tone, his vibrato is incredible. He found what he wanted to do early on and he stuck to that. And that is a criticism. He hasn't really... I remember speaking to a guy online and he said, oh, he plays all his first licks on the Alcatraz and the Rising Force album, he plays all his licks. And I suppose there's an argument for that. I think the Marching Out album benefits from better songs, and the Trilogy album's got better production. And he by that point, he really is at the peak of his playing. So although you're hearing a lot of the things on Trilogy that you would hear on previous albums, he's kind of right on top of it, right on top of his game for me. And then the Odyssey album, he'd had his accident, his playing wasn't as good, but the commercial, more AOR influence was a good thing, and would have got him a wider audience if he could have stuck with that and stuck with Jolene Turner. But yeah, I'll probably give this album 7 out of 10. That makes it controversial. It's an album I don't go back to much. Whenever I listen to it, I tend to think I find the things I love about Malmsteen on her albums. Recently, I've been more No Pro from Rock and Roll as one of my faves, and obviously Trilogy. Yeah, so that's a review of that, really. Recorded Record Plant in Los Angeles. I should just say another thing with this is produced by Malmsteen, and this has been one of his massive undoings. This album does not sound good, and neither is Marching Out. Trilogy sounds a lot better. It's muddy. The drums go psh psh. Really bad snare sound. It would have been benefited if Alice Hansen was on it. But compared to the kind of clarity and top end sort of mixes you get at the time, the Marching Out are very muddy. And I think that's kind of that 70s dungeonistic aspect of it has probably limited its appeal. But Malmsteen's always been more successful than people realise, perhaps, in terms of album sales, initially in the US and particularly in Japan. Okay, so hopefully see you again soon. Remember to share and subscribe, and I'll see you for another classic album inspection. Cheers, thanks.